when there's no more room in hell.
The dead will start a podcast. Everybody, and welcome to No More Room in Hell number 56. This is Mike. Joining me as always, it's Mr. Venom. What is up, Venom?
Greetings and salutations, zombies and samurais. Yeah, I'm doing pretty well, Mike. Finally healthy. I'm over COVID. I mean, literally today, it was the first morning I woke up and felt like myself. Even though we did record an episode of Fresh Cuts earlier in the week, I was still kind of reeling, like I still had some issues, but today, literally, I woke up this morning feeling like $1 million. So yeah, I'm ready.
All right, and good too, because this episode is your picks. So I'm expecting you'll have plenty to say about these. Excited to hear what you got to say. But before we can do that, let's introduce Derek to the show. What's up, Derek?
Hello, I am C-3PO, Human Cyborg Relations.
And I no longer have a red arm.
Hell yeah. What's up, guys? It's been a while. Actually, a lot happened.
Has been a while.
Yeah, it's easy to lose track because with Fresh Cuts, since we pretty much put it out every week, sometimes I forget how long actually goes in between recordings of this show, and it doesn't feel like it's been as long because I'm still doing something all the time. So then when I go to edit afterwards and I look at the upload date of the last episode, I was like, oh damn, it's actually been longer than I expected it to be.
And it's crazy because we were, fucking the last show was postponed too because I was sick for a few weeks. And this show was postponed because Venom was sick. So it's kind of we're trying, but shit happens.
Well, my kids are back in school, so rest assured I'll probably get in on the sick rotation at some point too, because it's bound to happen.
Yeah. I went to a condo, so that was pretty awesome.
Oh, yeah? How'd that go?
It was pretty fun. I went for the one Sunday. It was actually my first con I ever went to. I went to the Silver Screen Con in Danvers, Mass, which is pretty cool. Small. It was a smaller con than usual bigger ones like Day of the Dead or Monsterpalooza, which you guys have in Cali. But it was a good crowd, and actually all the people were nice. I was wearing my Pumpkinhead shirt. Everyone was like, "Yo, Pumpkinhead's underrated, yo. That's a good shirt, man." So that was cool. I met a bunch of people. I met Tony Todd. That was fucking cool.
Speaking of Pumpkinhead, how long has it been since you've seen Pumpkinhead 2?
A few years now.
I gotta do that one for Cut to the Chase's Thrills and Chills. That's what I got on the draw. I think I've only seen it once, and I don't remember a lot about it.
Well, the thing about Pumpkinhead 2 that which I actually, weirdly enough, it kind of branches off from the folklore and storytelling of the first movie and tells its own fucking story. Just uses the character of Pumpkinhead. But
yeah. Sometimes franchise sequels tend to do that. They're like, yeah, but let's put the monster in any movie and it'll work.
That movie has a crazy cast though, fucking Soleil Moon Fries in that fucking movie, Punky Brewster.
Oh, what?
Yeah, and fucking the sheriff's fucking Andrew Robinson from fucking Hellraiser and Dirty Harry.
I think Lance Henriksen's still in it too.
No, he's not in part 2.
Oh, what, does he come back later?
Yeah, 3 and 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which one is the subtitle Blood Wings? Is that 2?
That is 2. And
Oh
it
god.
actually
Okay.
there's actually like I don't know, I don't really want to spoil it for you because it's been a while, but it actually does have something to do with the word blood wings in the movie. It's fucking retarded when you find out what it is.
Yeah.
But actually, the highlight is the effects by K and B. Like they did the effects on that, and that's probably like the high point of the movie. Plus, you get cameos from like Linnea Quigley and Kane Hodder, which is kind of fun.
Nice.
Yeah, but yeah, K and B's effects are probably like that's actually their design of Pumpkinhead's actually my favorite design of Pumpkinhead, but it's in the shittiest fucking storyline movie ever. But you'll see when I mean.
I'll be watching it pretty soon. I can't remember who has the first Pumpkinhead, but I'm kind of like waiting for that to get scheduled, and then Lacey will probably hit me up so I have an idea when we're actually recording, because I don't want to watch it too soon, and then by the time we record, I'm like,
Yeah, I know what that feels like.
What about you, Venom? You been back to playing poker this whole time, even when you were sick? Were you doing it online?
Oh God, no, not at all. Online, yeah, but I'm in California, so I can't play for money online. So, just really just practicing, I guess. No, I dare not go to a poker game with COVID. Are you kidding? And the funny thing is that I play most of the poker that I play is in Burbank, so we're talking about older white men with money, and knowing some of their political affiliations. If I bring COVID to a poker game, I may kill some of them, because obviously Republicans kind of thoughts on the vaccine. I don't want to get into a political discussion, but the point is I play with a lot of old white men with money, Republicans, and yeah, I'm not going to bring COVID to a game where 90% of the people are unvaccinated, because like I said, I'll end up killing them. So I dare not play poker. I still will go out. Like I did go to a movie, or I went to a couple of movies while I was sick. I wasn't testing positive when I went to the movies, but I was still kind of
drowsy and shit like that, like groggy.
Like last weekend,
fatigued.
Like I was coughing a lot during the movie last week. What the hell movie? Oh, A Haunting in Venice. When I went to see A Haunting in Venice, which I'll be talking about in a little bit. I was coughing a lot, and I think people kept turning around looking at me. I mean, I had my mask on, I was masked up, and I tested negative that morning. So, I know I'm safe, but yeah. I probably shouldn't have gone to the movies, but whatever.
The mustache. You need to see the mustache. That's what.
Dude, epic mustache.
I hate getting a coughing fit at the movies, because like, so sometimes I'll be sitting there and it's like, do I just allow myself to cough and get it over with? But then you try to like prevent yourself from coughing, and then you make it worse.
Exactly.
Because then when you eventually cough, it's like twice as loud, because it's like a double. Oh man. Now, fortunately, most of the screens I go to now are on like off hours, so there's not a ton of people there. But when I was younger and I was always going on Friday nights and stuff, I'd be like, oh shit.
Yeah, that was fucking. Yeah, I think everybody knows that I when I smoke weed, I fucking cough a lot. Oh, it's bad. It's like fucking. I turn into like an alien with saliva. Like, I'm like one of those types. It's bad.
Holy shit! Did you guys realize Meg 2 is already on HBO Max?
I know.
Yep.
I was kind of sad.
I watched it this morning.
Oh man.
Should I say I watched it while I was working? So I was
watching it when I'm done with this.
Yeah, I was quick.
That's what she said.
Oh man. All right. Well, I guess we can get into a little bit of what we've been watching. So Venom, since our last episode, what do you have? I have like this long list. I'm like trying to decide what 3. So Venom, I'll kick it to you first. What have you been watching since our last episode?
All right. Well, the first movie I'm going to talk about is my absolute highest recommend of the episode. I watched this movie last week after a recommendation from our co-host Don from Fresh Cuts, and I absolutely fell in love with this movie. It instantly jumped to my top 10. I'm not exactly sure where yet. Obviously, I don't worry about my top 10 until December, but it is instantly a top 10 candidate, and that is Zom 100 Bucket List of the Dead. I absolutely adored this film. This film is so charming, so fun. Not as gory as you might expect from a over-the-top Asian zombie movie, but I feel like the biggest benefits of this movie aren't necessarily the zombie action. It's the relationship between our three main characters. I think it's absolutely adorable. Our main character is so goddamn charming. And it's a perfect movie for the working class. I mean, if you're the kind of person that works in an office, or you work for a tyrant where you absolutely hate your job and you dread going in every morning, this is a great movie for you to watch, to really see, one of those beaten down working class guys actually become a hero in the literal sense too. During a zombie apocalypse. And it's called Bucket List of the Dead because the guy, the main character in the movie, his name is Akira. He's of the understanding that he knows he's going to die in the zombie apocalypse. He's just this wormy little guy, no girlfriend, no family to speak of. So he's accepted the fact that he's going to die in the zombie apocalypse. But he starts working on a list, and it's his bucket list of the dead. It's basically 100 things that I want to do before I'm eaten by a zombie. That's literally the name of his list. And he doesn't write all 100 things down at once. He's actually adding to the list as the movie goes along. Sometimes he'll check stuff off and then add a new item, things like that. But they're all really cool things, like, go hang gliding, go to the hot tubs in, northern Japan, blah, blah, just like little things like that. But then he's got big ones on there too, like become a superhero and save everyone, and other, cool little charming things like that. So like I said, I can't say enough good things about this movie. This movie is sitting on a 5.5 on IMDb, which to me is an absolute fucking travesty. This movie was, like I said, so entertaining. I think the biggest drawback of this movie is going to be its length. It's over 2 hours. It's 2 hours and 10 minutes long. And I know for a zombie movie, that's a little excessive. But the character development is very important in this movie. We get a lot of time with all three of our main characters separately, and then once they get together, it kind of turns into The Walking Dead with like interactions with survivor groups and things like that. So I personally can't say enough good things about it. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more gore for a zom-com, but for what we got, I absolutely love this movie. I'm not sure if Mike's seen this one, but Derek, I'm kind of hoping you've seen it. Hopefully.
Before Derek chimes in, I'll just say you already listed off the main reason I haven't seen it. It's just because of the length. Because there's actually a couple horror movies that have released on Netflix in the last 2-3 weeks that I'm very much interested in. I gotta find the time on the weekend, because weeknights are just hard for me, period. But then when it becomes a 2-hour movie, it gets to that point where, like, do I start it now and kind of like watch it half out of it, and I don't want to do that. So, but
I actually did that with this movie. I watched half of it one night, and then I watched the second half another night. There is a perfect break, an hour and 10 minutes in this movie. I mean, it's just the perfect spot to stop the movie and maybe come back later or the next day or whatever. So I would recommend, if you can find an hour to spare, start it. And at least that first hour will give you an idea on whether you want to finish it. I'm pretty sure you will. I mean, it really reminds me of stuff like Juan of the Dead, some of the great zom-coms. It's not quite on the level of a Shaun of the Dead by any stretch, but It is just, I like I said, I loved it. I love these characters. Even the villain of all, the human villain, I should say, because obviously it's a zombie movie, and obviously zombie movies are going to have a human antagonist. Even he was somewhat likable by the end of the movie. So yeah, highly recommend.
And I was actually talking, but I discovered that I did forgot to turn my mute on. But no, I haven't seen it. I actually never heard of it until you brought it up, Venom.
Yeah, there's also an anime, an 8-episode anime that's like I don't know if because I haven't started watching it yet. I'm pretty sure the movie came first. They're both dated 2023. But the anime looks like it's kind of based off of the movie. And like I said, I haven't started watching the anime yet, just because it's October, and I'm probably not going to watch a lot of anime this month unless it's horror related, Vampire Hunter D, Demon City, stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. What'd you say it was on?
It's on Netflix. Yeah,
oh,
it's on Netflix.
Okay.
Both of them, both the anime and the movie are on Netflix. Correct.
All right, I'll have to look that up later.
Yeah. I liked it. It also reminded me a little bit of Zombie for Sale from last year or the year before, where it had that little. Well, I mean, if you love that movie, I don't think there's any reason you won't like Zom 100. So yeah, check it out.
All right.
All right, Derek, you're up. What do you got?
Okay. I watched the fucking worst movie ever called Kill Her Goats.
Oh shit.
Oh my god. And then I did some digging, I'm like, this all makes sense. This is from the director of one of the worst movies I ever seen called Muck.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm like mind blown that this was made. And the fucked up thing is people are buying fucking $45 steelbooks of this thing, and they don't even know what it is. They have their own website. It pops up every time I go through Facebook, like Killer Goats, fucking. I'm like, why?
Yeah, that's what we were saying when we reviewed it. Why? Why? And why advertise Kane Hodder as being in the film when he's literally in the film for like one scene and he has a mask on the whole time? It's like, really? Like, what did he get paid for that? His character literally disappears. His character literally walks into the woods and we never see him again the whole movie. And he's one of the antagonists. Yeah,
it's great. The same thing happened in Muck. They fucking advertised, watch Kane Hodder killed. He's in the movie for fucking 3 seconds, and it's like, that movie just pisses me off because it's the fucking middle of a supposed trilogy. So, like when you walk into that movie, part 1 already happened, and you're like, I don't know any of these fucking assholes. I don't give a fuck about them. It's so fucking stupid.
Yeah, everything about that movie bothered us. I don't remember us really having a lot of positive to say about it. The kills were dull, the antagonists were dull, the protagonists were just shitty people that nobody likes. I mean,
and then it just turns into this weird art house thing in the middle of the movie with like flashy fucking shit.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god.
You remember this one, Mike?
Unfortunately, some of the details are coming back. Yes.
Lots of titties too.
For some reason, I don't know if it was like a well-cut trailer or something, but I remember being like pretty intrigued going into it. Like it had a chance to be good, and then when I was watching it, I was just like, "Wow, this is horrible!" Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Long takes of people just talking.
And Derek is right about the mass amounts of nudity. It really, really comes off like this director wanted to film a porn, but then at the last minute was like, oh, fuck it, we'll make it a horror movie.
Oh, so bad. Don't buy this for $45. Don't buy it for fucking
Don't buy it. Don't skip it. Yeah, don't
watch it free.
Skip it, please. Don't even watch it for free. Now, you got better things to do with an hour and a half of your life.
Yeah, it was like an hour and a half too, and it felt fucking like it was 3 hours.
Yeah, I almost quit on it. Like at one point, I'd say like 45 minutes to an hour into it, I was very close to hitting up Mike and Derek, or Mike and Don, and saying, "Hey, can we pick another movie?" But I powered through it, so fuck it.
Did Don finish it?
I believe he did. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just making sure. It wasn't things
Yeah,
for him.
we haven't had too many examples of Don not finishing a movie. I mean, in the years that we've been working with him now, I think it's only happened once or twice. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Sometimes he has so little to say you'd think he didn't watch it all, but he's watched them, luckily.
He studied.
Yeah.
All right, I guess it comes to me now. So the first one I will bring up is actually it's one that kind of surprised me because it's on Tubi. It's a 2023, but it's not a Tubi original. Because I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Tubi is actually like producing their own movies now, but they're mostly like super low budget, like garbage.
Yep.
So when I first heard about
reviewed a
this,
couple.
yeah, we have.
Titanic 666.
I can't even
Yep.
remember who recommended this to me, but when they mentioned it was on Tubi in a 2023, yeah, I assumed it was a Tubi original, so I kind of just put that recommendation on the back burner, and I think I threw it on while I was working, and within 10 minutes I was like, hey, there might be something here, so I'm going to turn it off until I'm done working. So this would fall under the screen horror genre somewhat, because there's a lot of that mixed in. But it's not completely just on the screen. So, did I even say the name of it? Resurrected is the name of it. And so basically, the setup is that the Vatican has learned somehow how to resurrect people after they die. So you kind of have like a broken priest who gets involved with this, and then things become a big conspiracy, and then as you would imagine, the people coming back from the resurrection aren't quite what they seem. And then that's kind of how the story is set up. I can't really get into more because it would spoil it, but if you're into screen horror at all, I feel like this one does a good job of kind of breaking the mold, because up to now, a lot of screen-based horror ends up being like, oh, 5 people on a Skype call and there's an entity in the background, or it's either that or like the thriller version with like Missing, and what's the other one, Searching, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, we got to use social media to like track down the mystery of the people. And I actually like those for what they were. Like I found them to be
Twitter
decent
movie.
movies. Yeah. But I really recommend this one. It's actually one of the more enjoyable movies I've seen this year. I like the story. I think with screen horror, one of the biggest things they need to do to the viewer is like grab you with the story quick, because if not, you're probably gonna get over the fact that you're watching someone like looking back on the screen pretty quick. But this one got the job done. I always love kind of like it's one thing to have like the general religious conspiracy stuff, but anytime it involves the Vatican, I always enjoy, because the Vatican is actually an institution that would have the power to like do cover-ups and exert their power over things. Yes.
Is Buster Rhymes in this movie?
Thankfully not. It is not. Well, then it'd be called Resurrected Resurrection.
Trick or treat, Vatican motherfucker.
Yeah, I don't know. Hail Mary, motherfucker.
The power of Christ, motherfucker. Come on, we are 10 times better though. For ourselves.
Power of Christ compels you, motherfucker.
Let's get Samuel Jackson there too, and I mean.
But yeah, if you want to actually, and I don't know how this one fell to Tubi. I think it must just be a coincidence, because this is far and away. And the reason I say that is because it's a new movie. Like if it would have been something that was like 5 years old that just happened to slip through the cracks and Tubi grabbed it, I understand that. But usually if Tubi's putting brand new stuff on their platform, it's because it's the movies they made. So kudos on them for I guess this one slipped through. Although I know a lot of times there's stuff on Tubi that also is on other places. Like sometimes it'll also be on Prime, but I didn't check. So.
Or fucking
Yeah,
Freevee.
if you don't mind, obviously Tubi's gonna have the commercial breaks. So if you want to look for alternate places that it might be on, do that. But otherwise, this might be like the best new thing I've ever seen on Tubi. So check out Resurrected, and it's 2023, so it could go into not. It probably won't be reviewed on Fresh Cuts because we're too late in the process for that. But as far as consideration for 2023's end of year list, so. Check it out.
Sweet. That sounds beautiful.
All right, back to you, Venom.
All right, my next film is going to be one that I brought up earlier. It is A Haunting in Venice. Obviously, this is the Pierrot's amazing mustache. But yeah, this is directed by and starring Kenneth Branagh as Pierrot. This is based on an Agatha Christie story, so obviously, we got a murder mystery type thing going on. And I accidentally saw the trailer for it because I didn't realize that it was horror adjacent, even though it's called A Haunting in Venice. You guys know I don't watch horror movie trailers. I avoid them like the plague. But I saw this one by accident, and it had some supernatural elements to it. Now, obviously, it's an Agatha Christie story. So the likelihood that the supernatural element actually is supernatural is going to be slim to none. But I still had a minor interest in seeing this. And I got to say, the movie still is beautiful in theaters. I mean, the mansion, the palazzo, because they're in Venice, obviously, hence the title. The palazzo that they're in is gorgeous. It's got that great atmosphere. It's obviously floating on the water since they are in Venice. So water and flooding does kind of come into play with the storyline. It's got a great little cast, maybe not as great as some of the previous Agatha Christie adaptations, but I mean, you got Kenneth Branagh, Michelle Yeoh as a psychic. You've got Jamie Dornan as a doctor with PTSD from the war. Tina Fey, of all people, as an author. Pretty, like I said, a pretty good cast. I enjoyed the movie. Obviously, horror adjacent is even a stretch for this movie. Like, I would never recommend this for genre fans necessarily. I do love a good murder mystery, though. I mean, and then There Were One, and movies like that and Clue are some of my favorite movies ever. Murder by Death, things like that. So it was obviously going to be in my wheelhouse. I did enjoy Murder on the Orient Express from a couple of years ago, which basically, was done by Kenneth Branagh and, starred him as well as the
Yeah, I just watched both of those.
Yeah. I mean, you've got good performances. You've got a good story. Obviously, it's Agatha Christie, so you've got a good story there. As long as the director and writer and screenwriter don't, change too much about it, you've got a solid story. You've got good performances. You've got a nice little mystery with, unfortunately, I would say you can kind of see the end coming. Like the reveal, the last reveal is like, oh yeah, that was like the second person I guessed was the killer. But, it's still worth seeing, I think. And if you get a chance to see it in theaters, I would say check it out. It looks really nice. I mean, obviously, Venice is beautiful, whether it's daytime or nighttime. The house, like I said, the palazzo is nice and big, lots of floors, lots of levels. And, like I said, the finale might leave you a little flat, but I think overall that the experience is going to be a positive one. I saw it in theaters this past week. Obviously, it came out 2 weeks ago, but I was still in the middle of COVID, so I got delayed a week in seeing it. So I saw it this past weekend, and I really did enjoy it. So it gets a mild recommend from me. I wouldn't necessarily call this essential viewing like Zom 100, but I think, especially if you maybe, have a spouse who's not into horror as much as you are, this is a nice little Halloween movie to kind of, I would say this is a good early October movie. Like, I wouldn't watch it towards the end of October. That's when we save our classics, our Halloween classics. But I think this is a good one to start the month off with, and it's a good date movie ultimately, especially if you're the type of movie viewer who likes to try to figure out the mystery, before the movie gives it away. So yeah, I recommend it.
Yeah, I gotta check that one out still. I got kind of sidetracked with fucking other shit. Like I was gonna go see it, but then fucking shit happened. You know how it goes. But fucking.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I love the first two. Like fucking.
Yeah.
Like the Death in the Nile, like that whole beginning fucking intro to the fucking origin of the mustache was like fucking amazing. That was like the fucking greatest scene ever in a fucking movie. And I'm excited for when Kenneth Branagh does gargoyles. Let's just put it out there. That's his next project. It's going to be awesome.
Oh, fingers crossed.
Yeah, I saw the trailer for it too at the theater, and I thought it looked very interesting. Definitely like murder mystery or horror adjacent, but I still was interested in seeing it. Just didn't have time to get to the theater. But once it hits VOD or one of the services, definitely I'll be checking out because that cast is really good. From like
I will say that the cast in the first two are a little bit better. They mesh a little bit better. This one is definitely not as good as Orient Express or Death on the Nile, but it's still very watchable. So, like I said,
the only thing that creeped me out of the Death on the Nile cast is half of them are canceled now. Like it's weird seeing Armie Hammer like groping women and shit in that movie, and Russell Brand's just looking all rapidly.
Well, that's just how he looks.
I know, but you know what I mean.
No, it's true. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Derek, what do you got next?
Yeah, I watched the fucking another movie on what's it called there? Shudder. I got back in the Shudder. I watched Harusta the Bone Woman.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Sarah the Bone Woman.
With Sarah.
Yeah, there you go. I'll just say the Bone Woman because I'm not as good as you, Venom. You know. But yeah, this was kind of like an interesting story. It's about this young woman who's kind of like we see her like trying to get pregnant in the beginning of the movie, and then as like the story unfolds, it kind of has like these seedlings of like her past life kind of seep out, and then all of a sudden this weird supernatural thing starts happening where you see like this lady just jump off a fucking building and she's just chasing her. It's like crawling and shit, and like as the movie progresses, it gets worse and worse, and then you get a little bit more seedlings of kind of like the allegory of the movie, which I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. I was kind of into this. Like, it's kind of an interesting way to tell this type of story. Like, wow, it was cool. I actually really enjoyed it a lot. It was pretty good stuff.
Oh, yeah. And this movie is based on an actual Mexican legend, the Bone Woman. For those who don't know, there is it's a story of a woman who was cursed to basically collect the bones of wolves, lone wolves specifically, not wolves that had a pack. So basically she would collect the bones of lone wolves, and then she would put them together using black magic to create a human woman. It would actually create a woman, and she would the bone woman would actually like basically just let the woman go, basically just go live your life as a human. But if that person, the woman that was created, if she ends up living a subservient life, the bone woman starts to appear to her and starts to basically want to take away what she gave to her. So when you think about the Mexican legend in correspondence with the movie, in my opinion, it makes the movie better. And it explains that ending, because I know a lot of people were confused about that ending. But if you think about, the connotation of the actual Mexican myth, it makes 100% sense, and it just makes the movie that much better. So yeah. I know this is one that we all raved about on Fresh Cuts. I mean, even Don loved this one. So yeah, kudos.
Yeah, that's how far behind I am. Sorry, guys.
No.
Yeah, it's funny because today, Lacey was she messaged me. She's like, "Man, there's been a lot of like pregnancy horror in the last year or two, hasn't there?" I'm like,
Yep.
"Yeah." I was like,
I
maybe
think
coming
the
out of the
month of
pandemic,
May.
you know.
Yeah, our May of this year, we did 4 episodes of Fresh Cuts. 3 of them had to do with impending motherhood. I couldn't get over it, and obviously May is Mother's Day month, so it kind of made sense. But yeah, 3 out of the 4 episodes we did were about impending motherhood between like Clock and Bone Woman, and I forget what the third one was.
Take
But yeah.
note, companies. Release all pregnancy horror in May. He'll do better.
Oh, if you want to horrify expectant mothers into getting abortions, yeah, why not?
It's called Hanger by Ryan Nicholson.
Yeah. Oh God, no.
Oh, I'm gonna make Mike watch that one day.
But yeah, I 100% agree with Derek. Waseda is easily a top 10 candidate for me right now.
Yeah.
I had very little negative things to say about it. I really liked it.
One of the better Shudder movies.
Yes. Yeah. In a slow year for Shudder, it's nice to see something like The Bone Woman pop out of there. Yeah.
How's that Bloodflower movie on there?
I haven't seen it yet.
I don't think I've seen it. No.
Yeah, it looks interesting. It's like Malaysian.
Yeah,
That's weird.
I've scrolled by it a few times. Like I have such a conflict of like what I want to throw on while I'm working because, especially if it's a first time watch, it's like I feel like I somewhat ruin the experience if I'm only half paying attention. So
True.
But I have scrolled by it and
you always see that demonic kid's eyes.
Yeah, and I've come close to hitting play, but I'm just like, I'm gonna wait, and then other things get in the way, and then of course, never have time. But I guess for my next one, I'll pick something I did watch on Shudder, and this to me ended up being more of like a psychological thriller than horror. But it's funny if you look it up on Shudder, I think it's still in like the new section. It's called School's Out, and the little placeholder they put up, like the art, it's like kids with glowing eyes, and it gave me like Village of the Damned vibes. So like I was like, oh okay, this might be like a creepy kids movie. So basically, the setup for this one is I think they're either middle school or like early high school. The opening of the movie is they're in class, and like the teacher seems kind of half out of it, and he walks to the back of the class, opens the window, and like jumps off to commit suicide. And obviously, it seems like the kids might have something to do with why he did it. This movie, it's another one like I don't want to get into the details of because I don't want to spoil anything. Would I recommend it? Yes, but I think it's gonna be more for a specific audience because it's kind of a dry type of story. Do you guys remember? It was either last year or the year before that movie, The Innocents. Where the kid, it was like a Swedish or
the Chronicle ripoff.
Do you think that where was like the blood? The middle school? Yeah, they had powers. I don't know if I'd call them superheroes, but they definitely developed powers. So think of a movie. Think of a similar movie like that, but it's not. There's nothing supernatural that we know of involved. It's more just psychological, and this movie, there's a lot of nihilism in it as far as like, because in this movie they're gifted kids, and it's almost like they're so gifted that they know too much as kids about how the world works, so they have like the movie's very bleak and nihilistic. That's like as much I can say if you're into that kind of thing.
So the better version
sometimes if you're in the mood. Yeah, but it's hard for me to call it horror just because if I want to set it up properly, I don't want to give people the wrong expectation. It definitely it's dark as hell though.
Is it kind of like Freaks from a few years ago?
Kind of, yeah. I
like
can
that
be
one.
a little accurate. Yeah, I mean, I would say check it out because everyone does a great job. in it, and I think like for some of the horror fans, it'll hit the right notes. It's just that I don't want people to go into it thinking it's your typical creepy killer kid movie because it's not. But
Is it Robert
I
Patrick
enjoyed
in
it.
it?
Robert Patrick, no.
It'd be awesome to just see Robert Patrick just mowing down kids.
Randomly in a French movie where everyone else is a French
awesome.
actor.
Fucking Robert fucking Patrick.
Yeah, so I would say check out Schools Out on if you're into some French nihilism. Check it out. All right, back to Venom for your final pick.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and pick another wide release movie that's kind of horror adjacent, only because I was surprised by this movie. I only went to see this movie because I was bored on a Saturday. There was nothing else to watch in the theater. There was no poker game, no convention, so I literally didn't have much. So I decided, well, screw it. Let's go see this and see what the hype is about, because I had heard that it was getting good reviews. And this is, of course, another version of a film about a ride at Disneyland. No, this is not Pirates of the Caribbean. This is, of course, Haunted Mansion. And I gotta say, I really fucking enjoyed this movie. It's still solidly a family movie, but it's one of the darkest family movies I've ever seen. Like, there's some legitimate tension in the film, legitimate dark atmosphere. Even some of the themes in the film just really, really blew me away. I mean, this thing blows away the Eddie Murphy version from a few years ago, because that thing was so slapsticky that I just rolled my eyes constantly. Whereas this one, I had no problem with any of the performances. I thought the story was really well done. I think the effects are great. I mean, listen to this cast. We've got Lakeith Stanfield, Rosario Dawson, Owen Wilson, Tiffany Haddish, Jamie Lee Curtis, Danny DeVito, Jared Leto. I mean, that's insane. And I gotta say, only because I generally don't like the guy. I don't like Jared Leto that much. I'm not a big fan of any of the music he ever made. I'm not that big a fan of any of the movies he's ever made. I can't stand what he did with the Joker. But in this movie, as the Hatbox Ghost, I thought he was spectacular. He did a great job. Obviously, you know, the character is CG because it's a ghost, but you know, he's got that very distinct, deep British accent, and you know, it's got Jared Leto written all over it. Not that Jared Leto's British, but he's a damn good actor, apparently. Even though I'm not the biggest fan, like, I haven't seen any of his Oscar-winning stuff. I've seen just like kind of his more popular stuff, and I'm not impressed. But yeah, in this, I thought he was great. But anyway, great story about loss, about redemption, guilt, just really, really cool. And this is another long one. It's over 2 hours once again, but it absolutely did not feel over 2 hours. I mean, I was so invested in all of these characters. You know, Lakeith Stanfield's Ben is a great broken character. Rosario Dawson, you know, dealing with the having to raise a child not only by herself, but in a very obviously haunted mansion. So the movie is funny. I thought Jamie Lee Curtis as Madame Leota was awesome. Even Tiffany Haddish, who is another person that I'm not usually the biggest fan of, I thought she was great as the psychic Harriet in this one. So, yeah, I mean, this is another one where I would say, you know, if you got some young kids, you know, who are into, like, you know, kind of Disney Halloween stuff, I think this is a great family film. Like, much more than A Haunting in Venice. Not that I really call The Haunting in Venice a family film necessarily, but it's a good introduction to horror adjacent. Whereas this one, I mean, it seems cliche to call it a thrill ride because it's literally based on a thrill ride at Disney World and Disneyland. But I had such a fun time with this one that I can't say anything negative about it. I literally, even with the long duration, I had a blast with it. I walked out of the theater with an ear-to-ear grin. I just loved it. And I mean, Danny DeVito kind of steals the show. Like, he's one of the lesser main characters in the movie, but every time he's on screen, you just kind of want to laugh. Like I said, Rosario is great. Jamie Lee is great. Everyone in the movie is great. So, like I said, check it out, especially if you have families. And again, it's the beginning of October. This movie's still playing in theaters, but it also hits Disney Plus this coming Monday, literally October 2nd. It hits Disney Plus. So I would imagine as you guys are listening to this, it'll be available on Disney Plus. So if you've got access to an account, go check it out. I'm going to assume neither of you have seen it.
No,
I actually did. I took my kids to see it at the theater.
Nice. Oh,
and they liked it.
Kids.
Yeah.
Duh.
Yeah, I had asked because once the commercials and trailers started hitting, I asked them. I was like, hey, because it was probably something I wouldn't have gone to see at the theater by myself, but once they told me they were interested, I was like, okay,
like that one dude.
Shut up.
You be that one dude like.
And yes, I was that one dude in the theater by himself. I was surrounded by families and couples and everything. But whatever. I'll be that creepy guy. I don't mind. Ultimately, I have to see movies alone. Mrs. Venom works nights, so during the day she's sleeping. So yeah, I don't have much choice.
There's plenty of adults that will go see movies based on the cast alone. There's been many times I'll be sitting in the theater and I'll hear an older couple overhear them after a trailer just plays and they'll be like, oh, the Meryl Streep movie, got to go see that. It's just because they have their favorite actors and actresses that no matter what, they just want to see them on the screen.
Yeah. I actually enjoyed this. I feel like I enjoyed this cast a little bit more than A Haunting in Venice. That's two horror-adjacent ensemble cast movies.
Oh, I'm just waiting for the sequel with Danny DeVito now.
I would
Bronner
watch it.
and DeVito, Perot and
Danny
DeVito.
DeVito's character in this movie is the main character in the sequel, I'm in. I'm absolutely in.
But yeah, to your point, Venom, I agree. I found this one a little bit more enjoyable than the Eddie Murphy one. The Eddie Murphy one had its merits too, but it definitely felt like an Eddie Murphy vehicle. Let's put Eddie Murphy in a Haunted Mansion movie so Eddie Murphy can do Eddie Murphy things. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
It was better than Pluto Nash. I'll give it that.
Well, I mean, I took a hefty shit earlier. That's better than Pluto Nash.
Oh God.
All right, Derek, what you got?
Nothing else new, unfortunately. But I rewatched one from a few years ago titled Mayhem.
Yes.
Directed by Joe Lynch.
Mm-hmm.
And actually the reason why is because I actually just met Joe Lynch at that convention that I went to. And he was the fucking coolest guy too. We talked for a half an hour about just movies. I even mentioned that we were recording this episode on Kitamara and shit. It was fucking cool. And fucking it was the coolest moment. And he had copies of Mayhem. So I was like, yeah, I don't own that one, so I'll take that. And he signed it and took pictures with me and my nephew. Nice. And he was the coolest dude there. And I can't wait for it. I think his new movie comes out in October too at some point. Suitable Flesh, which looks cool. He actually was selling posters of it. It's H.P. Lovecraft, so I'm kind of excited for that. But yeah, Mayhem's pretty awesome. It's kind of a better version of Belko Experiment.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Much execution and story, and it's kind of cool too. The cast with Stephen Yeun and Samara Weaving. I thought they actually did a good job working off each other throughout the movie as it progressed. They were fun, and the characters are always the guy who just goes around and fires people. That was the greatest character ever. He was Darth Vader in this movie. Totally, it was fucking awesome. With the black gloves and shit, it was fucking great. It's a fun movie.
Yeah.
Fun.
Oh yeah. I think we reviewed it on Fresh Cuts. I don't remember, but I definitely saw that in theaters, and yeah, I fucking loved it. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
A slightly more fun Belko experiment.
Yeah, Joe Lynch.
Or definitely more gory. Definitely a gorier Belko experiment.
Yeah, I thought there was another movie that came out around the time of Mayhem that was an office, a bunch of people in an office go crazy and start killing each other.
That's what I just said. Belko experiment. It's the Belko experiment. Yeah.
And then they had
Well,
that
yeah,
weird
'cause-
one with like Zach Galifianakis and shit.
Oh yeah, okay. I was confusing Belko with something else. Now, okay, yeah, you're right. It was Belko. I do think Mayhem was like the better of the two for sure.
Belko was just a paycheck movie. They're like, James Gunn, you write the fastest script you could write in 5 minutes. Give it to me. Greg McLean, you direct this like you did the first Wolf Creek. Give it to me.
Yeah. I didn't like the ending of Belko as much as Mayhem. Like
Yes.
I didn't like the kind of contrived ending that they had, and almost happy ending. The ending of Mayhem was so much better. I think Belko looks like a nicer movie because it had a better budget, a higher budget, and it actually has more name actors in it.
Yeah, Michael Rooker and shit. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think Mayhem is the way more fun movie.
Yeah.
Is Mayhem the one that ends with like a bunch of like screens where it shows like it happening elsewhere too?
That's Belko.
That's Belko. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm actually holding the Belko Experiment Blu-ray in my hand. Because when I said it and no one recognized it, I'm like, did I get the title wrong? But no, it's the Belko Experiment. The tagline is Office Space meets Battle Royale.
Yeah. But there was like that weird one that was like low budget. It had like Bob Odenkirk and Zach Galifianakis and Jeffrey Tambor.
That wasn't Severance, was it?
I don't know. No, that was the
Severance.
British one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right. That's the British
Yeah,
one.
there's a few of them.
Hell yeah, man.
Together.
Especially the older you get, the more likely you worked in an office. So Office Space horror actually works once you've experienced it. Especially, like I said, if you had like I said earlier with Zom 100, if you have like a real demanding boss who beats you down.
Yeah.
I mean, what is more guilty pleasure than killing your boss?
Yeah.
I can't think of anything.
There's even like a vampire one called Bloodthirsty Bastards. That's pretty funny.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so for my final one, shocker, it's another movie I found on
Shocker.
Tubi. Not Shocker, unfortunately, not this time, but I'll have to find another show to make people watch Shocker again on.
Nope.
This is on Tubi. This one's on Tubi, also a 2023 and not a Tubi original. It's called Murder Size. Have either of you guys heard of this?
I actually got the Blu-ray from the director in the mail the other day. I didn't watch it yet though. I'm gonna watch it.
I have not seen it now.
Now, this one is low budget comedy gold, but you definitely have to almost be in on the joke because, I mean, if the title alone doesn't give it away, it's really kind of being like a parody of like kind of like the 80s workout video craze. So in this movie, they're trying to put together a workout video, and oops, they get involved with someone that's connected to the mob. And so, of course, they're under the gun to like make money on this. And there's a killer amongst them. And it's really a throwback to that kind of like low budget where there's like lots of nudity, practical effects. The acting is very subpar, but you almost don't care. Ginger Lynn, she's in 70s porn stars in it. And then a bunch of other people that I don't even recognize most of this cast, but it works for this kind of movie. And I just think if you're in the mood for like a low budget kind of funny, I feel like this movie knows exactly what it's making fun of, and they really go for it, and they really kind of get the max of what you could get out of like, you know, a bunch probably like no names that like half these people might not ever be in another movie again. Who knows? But I thought the writing was like the strength of this, and some of the practical kills are good, but the characters are cracking me up. The dialogue, because it's cheesy, but in like the in on the joke type of cheesy. Like they know this isn't like a Birdemic where supposedly the director actually thought he was like making like some art on film. Unless he's just playing everybody too, but like Murder Size, they they 100% understand like what they're doing here. Like the tagline, the deadliest aerobics video ever made. But yeah, I think you guys would get a kick out of it, and like I said, it's
Well,
on
I love to
Tubi.
direct his other movies.
What are Paul
And I love
Ragsdale? What?
Yeah, he did like Streets of Vengeance, and he did like
Okay.
Cinco de Mayo, the Mexican slasher movie. He's actually from your area. He's from Sacramento.
Yeah, I think Streets of Vengeance is on Tubi too, because I think that's what it tried to autoplay
Yeah.
after I was done, and I just didn't have time to watch that one too.
Yeah, slasher at Prodigy is pretty fun too. You like, the cool thing about like Cinco de Mayo and Streets of Vengeance, they started like as movies on like an old like late night TV channel. You know, like they have like commercials and shit and trailers for other movies in the middle of them. They're fun.
Cinco de Mayo actually has a decent B score too, like for being like a low budget. 5.5 is not bad for like a little low budget grindhouse movie.
Yeah.
After being unjustly
really.
fired, harassed by his students, and labeled a potential menace to society, El Maestro sets out to teach everyone one final lesson. I wonder if that one's on Tubi, because I kind of want to watch it.
They're all awesome.
Cool. But yeah, I guess start with Murder Size and go from there if you haven't seen it, because it is available for sure. And Derek, since you have the Blu-ray, you're gonna have to let me know what you think of after you see it, because I think you'll love it.
Yeah, I always like for like that, like directors like that, I always like try to support their releases too. You know what I mean? Give them a little extra buck to make their money projects bigger. You know?
Yeah, exactly. And it's probably something you got to be like, you have to go into it knowing like what you're watching, like what you're dealing with. But I think if you do, then you'll have a good time with it.
Good stuff.
All right. Well, that is our 3 each on the what we watched. So I guess we can move on. Unless is there anything else anyone wants to bring up that they thought of during this time? Like any?
Can we talk about the return? Can we talk about the return of the goat? Hello, I am C-3PO. Human cyborg relations. It was the best.
Mike has no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike has no clue what you're talking about.
If you're talking Star Wars, I
probably don't have a clue.
Yeah, if you're talking Star Wars, generally I've watched the new show. I'm caught up on that, Ahsoka or whatever. That's pretty good
know
stuff.
what we're talking about. Go figure.
Oh, he's
awesome.
literally talking
thought
about that, like that scene.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was this episode.
Okay, then I do
so,
know.
It was great. Great show so
Yeah,
far.
awesome series. This series is making me a lot of money because all my old Star Wars Rebel Funko Pops have all skyrocketed in value because of the new series. So, yeah, bring it on.
Nice.
All
right.
Yeah, it's good shit.
Well, one thing I got for news is the makers of the Evil Dead game said they ain't making no more content for it. That's record time in under a year.
This is why this is
Like,
fucking bullshit. Like fucking. This is why my sister bought me the Friday the 13th game. Can I still play it? No. Like what the fuck is this bullshit?
Well, that's why I've been hesitant to get the Texas Chainsaw Massacre one, even though people say it's fun. I'm like, okay, I believe
Fun
you
for
that
a
it's
while.
fun, but how soon are they gonna just stop making content? And then there's that Killer Clowns one that's I think coming next year, as long as it stays on schedule. Yeah, and it looks really good. I'm just like, I just don't want to pay
Buy
for
a
something that
game
you're gonna
that's
shut the
not gonna-
servers down for. Yeah. Have you guys seen the preview for that RoboCop game? That shit looks cool.
Oh yeah, that's pre-ordered.
The
first
first-person shooter RoboCop.
Dead or Alive.
Yeah,
It's Peter Weller.
All of those linear multiplayer horror titles, to me, they're fun for a while, but it's like once your friends kind of move on, like it's only fun with friends. You know, if you're playing it online with random people, it's not nearly as fun unless those people become friends. And then the single player campaign in pretty much all of those games is just kind of boring. It's cool at first, especially Friday the 13th, to actually be Jason and walking around Crystal Lake and, taking teenagers out in some amazingly gory ways. But after a while, that it just kind of gets boring. Like, there's not a lot of satisfaction to it. Like, once you see all the different kills, it's like, okay. But if you've got a tight knit circle of friends, I think that'll, it'll keep the life of the game a little bit more. And I'm really looking forward to the Killer Clowns one, because you can actually have teams against teams. It's not like just Jason versus, 4 or 5 counselors. I know Texas Chainsaw kind of added a little bit more to it, so it wasn't just like, one versus a group. But Killer Clowns looks like it's going to be fun to me, because you could have a team of 5 clowns and then 5, people from the town. That, I don't know, something about that just sounds
being
really
a clown.
fun. Oh, hell yeah, I'm being a clown. Oh, my God, I'm going to cotton candy the fuck out of everybody. So good. And it's funny, too, because I literally just completed my Killer Clowns Funko Pop set. I needed Shorty, and I literally got him last week, so now I've got every Killer Clown. And my Halloween display looks awesome. So
They make a giant one for the giant one?
There is one coming. It is not out yet.
Oh, I might have to buy that.
Because they just released Spirit Halloween has an exclusive one where it's just the scene where they deliver pizza, but they kill the lady at the door with the cotton candy gun. Like that whole moment is in a pop. I'll send you a picture of it later, because obviously I have it. But yeah, that's a Spirit Halloween exclusive. So next time you go to Spirit Halloween, check out the Funko section. Another thing I want to point out that Spirit Halloween has, I don't know how much news this actually is, but I highly recommend people get this one if you collect Funko Pops. There is a new Sam from Trick or Treat Funko Pop, but this one is flocked, which means he's fuzzy. Like his clothes are actually cloth. He's not 100% vinyl. And it's already jumped up in value. It's already like worth double its retail price. So if you can find it, I would say get it, because that's going to be the pop of the season for Halloween this year. That's your toy report for this week.
What I like about the pops is, like, they pretty much all start, like, if you buy them when they first hit, they always start at, like, standard price no matter what. And then if they go up in value later, then good for you. But, like, those brand new, like, obviously there's different tiers, because, like, there's the doubles, there's the extra bigger size ones. There's, like, I remember they did the Beetlejuice house, I think, once. Of course, more than like the $10 pops, but even then, to me, the prices on everything always start fine and, like, affordable.
Yeah, they get a little crazy once you get to the 10-inch figures, because they got the 4-inch, that's the standard Funko Pop, and then they got the slightly bigger ones, which are 6 inches. Usually those are like a scene from a movie or something, like, Darth Vader fighting Luke Skywalker on the Death Star or whatever, blah blah blah. But then they have 10-inch pops too, and I only own one of those. I just own the Michael Myers, because that thing is gigantic. 10 inches may not sound like a lot, haha, but in the package, it's a big fucking package. So yeah.
Venom, do you own Duel of the Fates?
What's up?
You own the whole scene of Duel of the Fates?
I got it somewhere in a closet. Yeah.
Oh,
I got the one where Anakin. There's a new one coming out where Anakin is killing Count Dooku, so that's one I'll be picking up soon.
Oh,
but
do you send me the link for that?
But first and foremost is horror, obviously, because it's October, so we're getting a lot of horror releases. We're getting a new Xenomorph. We're getting a new Eddie from Stranger Things, Eddie Munson. We're getting a new. We're getting a Blacklight Sam from Trick or Treat. We're getting a new glow in the dark Vecna from Stranger Things season 4. So yeah, October is just flush with Funko Pop releases, and not just Funko, but all toy companies, because NECA's got some new stuff out too. I saw the NECA, what do you call it? Art the Clown. That figure is amazing. It is fucking amazing. I will definitely be getting one as soon as I can find it, because it keeps selling out every time I go look for it.
Fuck yeah.
Were you able to assemble all the new Treehouse of Horror ones already?
Yes, I even got the glow-in-the-dark Witch Maggie. And yeah, I got them all. I'm looking at them right now. I got the entire collection plus the 6-inch Willie. 6-inch Willie. And yeah, so I've got and Amazon last month released a glow-in-the-dark Witch Maggie. So I've got both of the Witch Maggies now too. So yeah, Treehouse of Horror. That's a series that I always try to keep up on. I'm still missing a couple from the first series. Werewolf Bart, Vampire Krusty, stuff like that. But I'll get them. I'll get my hands on them eventually.
Yeah.
Oh, and then one other last little bit of news for those who care. Derek mentioned Monsterpalooza earlier. Monsterpalooza is coming. It starts on the weekend of Friday the 13th. So literally on Friday the 13th, I will be at Monsterpalooza in Burbank, California. I'm going to get a bunch of pop signed. I'm going to get another Leatherface signed by Bill Johnson. My Guillermo pop from What We Do in the Shadows, Harvey Guillen, is going to be there. Alan Quinn, who played Sam in the Trick or Treat movie, I'll be getting his autograph. So yeah, I'm going to be spending. This will be one of the first times I go to a con, and most of the money I spend is going to be on autographs, not merchandise. So interesting.
Merchandising.
But yeah, if you're in Southern California, Friday the 13th, the weekend of Friday the 13th, Monsterpalooza at the Burbank Hilton. Come on out.
Did you get tickets to go see Goblin?
I did not, only because I've been spending so much money on other stuff. Because obviously I had to get that Exorcist 4K that dropped last week. I had to reserve The Mist. The Mist is getting a 4K. Natural Born Killers.
Fucking 4K.
Yeah, everything's getting. I mean, The Exorcist I've been waiting for most of my life, to the point where I was complaining about it earlier this year. It's like, how the fuck does one of the greatest horror movies ever made not have a 4K? But they rectified that finally, and I'm a happy boy. So awesome.
Yeah.
I got tickets. I think it's whatever the Saturday before Halloween is. I think it's the 28th, Saturday the 28th. But
yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to go see. They're doing the Demon score. It's basically what
they come
the
to
description
here.
says. Yeah, the description says they're doing the whole Demon score, and then after they finish the Demon score, they're gonna do like their classics, which I assume is like a bunch of other Argento movies and stuff. Italian movies.
They better play Blood Red. That's all I'm saying.
Blood
Deep Red.
Red.
Excuse me. Deep Red.
Oh hell yeah!
Oh, and then do you guys have plans for Halloween yet? Because I've already made my plans for Halloween. I can't believe it. This is the earliest I've ever made my plans.
What are they?
Oh, I'm going to Disneyland. Like I won the Super Bowl
awesome.
or something. No, yeah, the wife, she wanted, because last year we did Christmas at Disneyland, and she wanted to do Halloween this year. So yeah, and since she's actually off on, because Halloween is on a Tuesday this year, and she has Tuesdays and Wednesdays off, I figured, fuck it, let's just do it right on Halloween night. So yeah, we're gonna be at Disneyland, scaring the little kids. Awesome.
That's awesome. That's one time I've never been to Disneyland is during the Halloween season, and we want to go. It's just dicey because our kids are in school during that time, so it's like, and if we lived in Southern California where like just be like that day taking them out of school, that'd be fine probably, but like we actually have to make a trip down there, so it'll happen eventually, but that's the one thing, because we want to, obviously we can take them to Disneyland during the summer just at the standard setup there, but one of our goals is to get them there for the what do they call it, like Mickey's Halloween party or something? I can't remember what they officially call it.
I forget. Yeah, there's like a big party. I can't remember the name of it. It's like the Spooktacular, the downtown Disney Spooktacular, or whatever the fuck it is. But yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yep, cool. But that sounds like an awesome time. Yeah, for me, I'm assuming my Halloween will be the standard thing of a parent, which is me or Jen, one of us will take the kids trick or treating, and then the other one will hand out candy. And then when we get back with the kids, the other person will take over candy duty, just depending like what time, and then have spooky stuff on the TV. So
The Monster Mash. I'll be working.
Yeah. This is going to be the first year in a long time I'm not home on Halloween watching movies, because Disneyland closes at midnight, and because my wife works nights, she tends to sleep a little bit later into the day. So we probably won't even go to Disneyland till like noon. So, and last time we went, we closed it out. So I would imagine we'll close it out this time. So literally, I won't be watching a movie this Halloween. Mark your calendars. First time ever.
Do, 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 do.
I'll watch that on the 30th.
Do, 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 do.
Okay, the only other news I got was just to say, hey, Shudder announced another season of Joe Bob starting next year. First, they're going to have a couple Halloween specials, a Christmas special, but they are officially changing the format of The Last Drive-In to, instead of a double feature, it's going to be one movie every other Friday night, because it sounds like they're trying to stretch it out, so it's not just 5-6 weeks and done. They want it to like go for farther into the year or further into the year. So that's interesting. I kind of have mixed feelings about the single feature only. Well, I guess it depends how much of a diehard Last Drive-In viewer you are when it actually airs, because I think the single feature will benefit definitely people on the East Coast time zone, because for them, I think the first movie isn't starting until 9, but for us, Venom, the first one starts at 6. So a lot of times I would only be kind of half watching the movie because I still have an active and awake household at that time. So it's like I might throw it on at 6 and kind of have it play in the background while I'm doing other stuff, and maybe halfway through it, that's when I actually sit down and like give it the full attention. But the good thing is it goes on the VOD almost immediately. So, but I'm just glad we're getting more. Like, I'm glad they extended it, and this last season, people seem to have mixed reactions because he would change up kind of like the format of like how it goes. But I liked it. I liked tuning in every week, and you never knew what you were going to get with like the setup and the gimmicks and the guests, and I really liked it.
Yeah, for the most part, I enjoyed it. I didn't have any problems with it. I didn't see every single episode. I'm a little behind, but what I did see, yeah, I enjoyed it. I actually like the idea of splitting them up. It makes sense for Shudder, too, because it's their highest rated show, to the point where the servers will actually go down sometimes because so many people are tuning in to check it out. We remember the debacle from the very first one where half the country didn't even get to see it.
Yeah, it was like a 6-hour one too, wasn't it? Like 9
exactly.
And the other business aspect is they might be looking at like subs and unsubs during Last Drive-In, because you got to remember, like, Joe Bob brings a non-horror crowd with him, like the diehards that they probably like horror movies too, but they not enough to like sub to Shudder. But if Joe Bob brings in a specific amount of subs, then you kind of want Joe Bob on as much of the year as possible to keep those subs from like unsubscribing for half the year,
Yep, exactly.
All right, well, that's all I have of the news to be subbed to. So I don't know. Do you guys have any news you wanted to bring up or anything else before we
Joe
take a
Bob
break?
walked by me at the con. It was kind of weird.
He's tall as fuck.
Yeah.
I see him in,
big time.
Like, I had always heard he's like tall, but you don't realize it until he's there, and you're like, holy shit, you are a tall dude.
Yeah, Darcy was there too, and I was like, hey, Darcy.
Yeah, she's cool. She's cool
something.
too. Yeah.
She's something.
Yeah, she's very
guys we're trying to pick the right words that won't get us in trouble.
True.
Because I've met her in person too, and she actually is fucking stunning. She's pretty damn attractive.
Yeah, she was kind of quiet and reserved last time she was, because I think they've been here twice. Well, I know Joe Bob's been here like 3 or 4 times, but with Darcy, I think twice they've been here. And I can't remember the first time, but I know last year when they were here, she was pretty quiet and reserved, almost like she's nervous in like the setting of meeting all the fans. But if you do anything to initiate conversation, she'll be totally into it, because she really liked my Halloween 3 tattoo, so that got her kind of like talking to me and
Nice.
stuff. So I was like, okay, cool.
I would have been like to him, how did it feel to get beat up by Joe Pesci in the mirror casino?
Or killed by Corey Cunningham.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
God, I can't believe I brought that up.
He's probably like, I'd rather get beat up by Joe Pesci.
Oh, any day. Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
Oh man.
How did it feel to play an incompetent slot machine supervisor?
Shit,
or
I
whatever
should
his thing was?
I should have even, like, because Dick Warlock was at the con too, I should have asked him, like, how does it feel to cattle prod that guy in Casino? Because he's the guy who cattle prods the guy.
Right.
After Don Rickles gets beat up.
Yeah, Don Rickles' beat up scene's the best.
Just because the noise he
just
makes
goes down
after he falls to the ground.
Yeah, he just goes down, defeat.
And the song they use in the background is good. I can't remember the name of it. But... All right. Well,
Anything.
if that's
This ain't Scorsese podcast.
That's it. We will take a break, and we're coming back with Venom's double feature. Venom, name those movies. What did you pick for this episode?
All right, I wanted to return to Japan for this episode, so I wanted to find a pair of Japanese, either straight horror or horror adjacent. I've been watching a lot of martial arts lately, so obviously our first movie is going to be Versus, which is kind of an obvious pick from the year 2000. And then as I tried to find a second movie to pair with this, I couldn't really find too much that was kind of the same, maybe not the same style, but kind of the same subgenre where it's martial arts, but also has elements of horror to it. And I didn't really want to, lean on the Shaw Brothers, because, that's not Japan anyway. So, right? Shaw Brothers is like
China.
Hong Kong?
China,
Yeah,
Hong
exactly.
Kong.
So I just decided, fuck it. We're going to do a Ryuhei Kitamura episode. So we're going to pair Versus with his fourth movie called Aragami. Not origami, like the Japanese folding of paper. This is Aragami.
The battle god.
Yeah. The mad demon god, yes. Versus and Aragami, both directed by Kitamura, are going to be our features for this episode. And yeah, we'll start talking about those when we get back.
Yum, yum. It's time for a tasty and refreshing snack. Promise to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, your sweet tooth. So visit our refreshment center now. Let's go! And now, on with the show.
All right, folks, we are back, and it is time to review our feature films for the episode. As we mentioned before the break, we are looking at a pair of Ryuhei Kitamura films, and we're going to start with 2000's Versus. As mentioned, this was released in 2000. It is currently unrated, and it has a runtime of exactly 2 hours. Our synopsis is as follows. There are 666 portals that connect this world to the other side. These are concealed from all human beings. Somewhere in Japan exists the 444th portal, the Forest of Resurrection. For most of us, this is probably the first Kitamura movie that we saw. This was the first notable movie that he released. I actually saw this probably like in 2001 or 2, very soon after the DVD released in the States. And when I heard the concept of, like, it's basically it's a crime drama slash martial arts slash zombie slash demon, just insane amount of subgenres represented in this one. A little bit of comedy, a little bit of drama, a little bit of police procedural. I mean, yeah, you get a lot with this movie, which could turn off some audiences. Like, some people might not be able to put this movie in a certain category, and that might upset them to the point where they don't want to watch it. I personally think this is a great movie, but let's go ahead and bring in Derek first. Derek, tell me your thoughts on Versus.
Well, Versus, wow. It's a movie, man. It's an experience, to say the least. The first time I seen this movie, and it starts out like kind of like, and it's weird because even like watching like interviews with Kitamaro over the years, and you can see like he was always more of a fan of like Western films, like our movies, than say his own country's movies, and it shows in his like even like fucking watching like, because I actually watched. I'll get to it when we get to it, but I actually watched the dub of this. Not this movie. Actually, I did watch the dub for this one first because that's what the DVD opened with. I'm like, fuck it, I'm already halfway in the movie to realize it. I watched it in Japanese, but kind of like even like in the dubs, they kind of flow better than a usual like dub movie, if that makes any sense. And it's just the way the mannerisms of like how the actors are acting and shit. It feels like they're acting like Americans in the movies. Kid, and it's this whole experience with like this guy prisoner is escaping, and they meet this girl, and you get these weird like flashbacks to like the samurai age and shit, and you've been two to do together because you're starting to recognize certain people kind of look like other people from the flashback, and it kind of blew my mind the first time I seen it. Like this like whole like story, like it's kind of like a live action Legend of Zelda where like reincarnations of Link and Zelda, and the man in black is fucking Ganon, getting reincarnated over and over again. So it's kind of like a live action version of that going in my head when I found out that was a thing in that series. And yeah, it was the aspect of it being because this is a super low budget movie. It's kind of like his first big major movie because he did a few short films before this. Even like there's one called Down to Hell, which is actually kind of like a precursor to this. It kind of sets up the same way as Versus in a way, and actually is a good like thing that you should watch maybe in your downtime because it gives you a little bit more details of it. And yeah, I love the fucking Kitamaro always has like over the top bad guys in his movies because, as me and Venom know, he also directed one of the most divisive Japanese Godzilla movies in Godzilla Final Wars. And the bad guy in that's fucking wicked over the top. And like Matt, like even like in fucking the end of like the next movie we were talking about, the guy's even like doing like weird cape things with his cape, like it's fucking awesome. But yeah, this movie's a ride. I love the gore effects. It goes back to like early like Peter Jackson style of gore. With some of like the heart splitting opens and shit. It's kind of cool. And like Riccio style, like just punching through people and shit. It's fucking awesome. I love this movie. And the ending, it's fucking very interesting. Like, we could have like a whole discussion about the ending of this movie.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, so for me, this was one of the movies, along with Battle Royale, that kind of reignited my love for Asian cinema. Now, I never stopped loving it, but to give some context, so when I was a kid, I kind of grew up like my dad would always have like Godzilla movies on, or monster movies, or Shaw Brothers. And then as I got a little older, like teenager, I discovered like John Woo movies, Ringo Lam movies. But for whatever reason it was, for a lot of the 90s, it's not that I purposely stopped seeking out like Asian cinema. I don't know, maybe I was just busy being like a teenager with other stuff, or I was more just watching kind of what was easily available. And you remember the internet was around in the 90s, but it wasn't like the internet now. Once we got to about 99, 2000, that the early 2000s, that's when we kind of went to internet 2.0, where you could start to like find like international shops a lot easier. And I can't now. This is listed as 2000, and so is Battle Royale. I can't remember which one I saw first, but I know once I saw one of them, it immediately had me like tracking down the other one. And there used to be a web, so Amazon was around back then, but it wasn't the beast it is now. So I used to go to a website called DVDAsian.com, and they would have like everything. They would have your region movies. They would have region free stuff. So I ended up purchasing the Battle Royale region free director's cut and the Versus region free director's cut. And Versus, it was just one of those movies that hit me like, holy shit, like it has a little bit of everything that I've grown up loving. It has the martial arts, it has the gun fu, the gunplay, it has the zombies. I love the fact that they keep adding characters throughout the movie that like show up to the force for their own reason, but they don't feel like fodder. Like, yes, a lot of them end up dying, and sometimes not after a bunch of like a ton of screen time, but it feels like they all show up with at least some type of element related to like the main story that's going on. I love the fact that like Derek mentioned, the budget's lower, but what they get out of that budget is so great. The choreography is great. The editing is excellent. I love that we even get some like Sam Raimi homage in there with the track cam in the forest when the camera's like chasing around like
Evil Dead.
I noticed that not for the first time, but the first time in a while when I was rewatching it for the show, because it had been a while. Like, I don't know if it was already brought up, but like I think the only thing that hurts this as being more rewatchable is the runtime. It is 2 hours, and there is some parts like I think it's the second act where you almost get like the anime style of like two characters kind of just having like long shots of them like looking at each other before saying anything, and then they'll spit out like a couple words of dialogue and then go back to like just like holding the camera on like their face. But other than that, like, man, I don't find many flaws in this movie at all. I find it just as fun now as I did when I first saw it, and I think it's a movie you can show to a lot of different audiences because it blends so many genres that I think it has wide appeal. It's definitely like a movie marathon or a movie party movie that you want to be around when people see it for the first time, because it's just fun. Like, there's a lot of things it can be described as, but sometimes if you just want something fun, this is a movie that really takes care of it. As far as the ending, yeah, this ending, I remember in like the wake of this movie kind of gaining popularity back then, everybody was waiting for like a sequel to be announced because it felt like it was setting up like a futuristic, like, oh, we're going to do the movie, but now in like the future setting, because we got the scene of the old, like the past, and then the most of the movie I think takes place kind of in the present time, and then at the end we almost get like a hybrid version of almost like a cyberpunk looking like confrontation about to go down, and everyone thought, oh, they'll eventually do a sequel, but it's probably a good idea they never did, because sometimes you can't replicate that formula. Like something from earlier in your career, it just everything hits the right way, and I would definitely recommend this if people haven't seen it. It's been around. Man, it almost hurts my heart to say it's been over 20 years since this came out, because damn, that makes me 20 years older than. But yeah, I still love this movie. I still had a blast. I recommend anyone who hasn't seen it go out. I mean, you can find it on YouTube in full if you got to resort to that. So just watch it. It's great.
And dude, like this is like the perfect pairing of movies too, because even like the second movie, it's like, wow, kind of like even has like a fucking crazy ending too. It's like,
yeah, I haven't seen all those directors' movies, but I definitely feel for the early movies, He definitely has like the theme of almost like a showdown of like fate or like destiny. The way he brings, because even in Versus, there's like a ton of characters, there's a ton of like fighting and killing going on, but it's always like based around like the ultimate confrontation that's coming between two characters, and that kind of follows into the next movie.
Yeah, in fact, even like fucking his American movies, like Midnight Meat Train. Oh,
Yeah, awesome.
That's right. Yeah.
yeah. No One Lives. Another.
I even didn't he do one more recently with a sniper?
Downrange.
Am I thinking of? Yes.
Yeah,
I
Downrange.
actually like that movie. I remember a lot of people talking smack about that when it came out, but I enjoyed the hell out of it. The ending is a little, but I mean, overall, I had a great time with that movie.
Yeah.
But we're talking about Versus, so yeah, for me, like I said, when I heard a description of this movie the first time, I'm like, I have to have this, and I have kind of the same backstory as Mike, man. DVD Asia. I love that website. I bought a lot of horror there, a lot of martial arts. I even bought a little bit of porn. Yes, I was that guy for a little while, but
Yeah,
that
and
website was great.
back then it was one of the only places you could do it, because they would put out this was before like a lot of stuff was region unlocked, so like they would actually have region free, or I think they call it region 0 maybe back then, where you could play it anywhere. Yeah, and it was awesome.
Yeah, region 0 is anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, when I first saw this movie, I was absolutely blown away. I had just never seen a movie that kind of touched upon so many subgenres before. I had never seen a Japanese gangland movie that turns into a zombie movie, then turns into a struggle of good and evil over the centuries. I mean, there's so much going on here. There's comedy, there's drama. You could even say a little tiny bit of romance, even, if you will. I mean, like I said, the amount of subgenres that this thing touches upon is pretty amazing. And even though, yes, it is an older film with a very low budget, you kind of, obviously, he couldn't afford the greatest cameras back then. So even though I like own the DVD version, it almost looks like a bootleg when you're watching it. Like the quality isn't super great, but it's still such a fun movie. Like Mike said, the amount of just goodwill that Kitamura was able to get out of here with such a small budget is just absolutely amazing. And it's pretty much going to be the same thing with the second movie, whereas the second movie had an even smaller budget than this one, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, this, I mean, there's no waiting. I mean, it literally, they're in the forest within 5 minutes of the start of the movie. And within 10 minutes of the start of the movie, your first zombie gets up. And just the explanation of the Forest of Resurrection and everything that's going on, and this struggle between these two characters over the centuries, where they keep getting three characters technically, that keep getting reincarnated, and they keep having kind of the same struggle until yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I look at this thing as a Western anime horror, but it really leans into the anime a lot. Like, as I'm watching this movie, and especially with the characterizations, it's the characters in this movie that make this a goddamn anime. Like some of the villains, some of the gang members, after they turn into, whatever you want to call them, zombies, demons, they're actually some of them that
crawls on all fours.
Oh, I love that guy. That guy is directly out of like a Demon City Shinjuku movie or something like that, where he's just this giggling, idiot who just wants to tear you apart at every instance. It just, God, it makes this movie so goddamn entertaining. But yeah, I mean, great performances all around. We even get to see one person in this movie will be in our second movie later on. Unfortunately, in the second movie, they're only in it for one scene, which is too bad. But at the same time, our next movie has such a small cast, it kind of worked. So it's understandable why maybe he's not in as many, as in the movie as long as he is here. Yeah. But yeah, Kitamura definitely likes to reuse his actors. Like the girl from our second movie was also in Alive. It was either Alive or Zuma. I forget which one, but she's also in that one of those movies, which are both Kitamura movies.
Yeah,
Just. Mhm.
I think the whole cast of this movie is in Godzilla Final Wars.
Oh, I believe it. Absolutely. I mean, why not? Work with the people you know. It's the Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah,
syndrome.
I think the guy who plays the man's actually one of the fucking captains of one of the other ships in that movie.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
awesome. But yeah, I mean, there was so much great stuff in this movie, and to actually see zombies using guns, I mean, come on, how fun is that? That rivals Zombie versus Shark. I mean, there are some fun ass scenes in this movie. The fighting does tend to get a little hammy and posy, if you will, in the sense that a lot of the characters will be striking these superhero poses for no real reason.
Matrix.
It is entertaining. Yeah, exactly. It's still very entertaining, but after a while, you're scratching your head like, why did you have to do a superhero landing there? It was unnecessary. It looked cool, but we didn't really need it. But yeah, the fight scenes are really cool. The fact that these people are all kind of working, well, all the antagonists anyway, are working for one particular character who's actually named the Man. That's actually the character's name is the Man.
The main
and
dude's
he is,
Prisoner
of course,
K.
Yes, yeah, Prisoner KSC2, exactly.
Yeah.
And then the girl is called the Girl, so it's kind of interesting. I mean, when you look at the cast list on here, none of the characters actually have names.
Assassin.
Yeah, Yokozuna leader, motorcycle riding not Yokozuna,
One-handed
Yakuza,
cop.
excuse me.
One-handed cop.
Red-haired assassin. I mean, long-haired female assassin. I mean, that's so great that you don't have to concern yourself with names. Obviously, it makes our job a little bit harder to describe the movie, but ultimately, it's this one hero who's been fighting this same evil over centuries.
Sakaguchi.
Sakaguchi, exactly. And just the fact that, once we get to the kind of the third act of the film, and we realize that this has been going on for generations, where every 100 or so, however many hundreds of years, all three of them are reincarnated and they go back to the eternal struggle again of the man basically trying to get to the girl. And obviously there is a twist in this one, because eventually they do get, the man does get a hold of the girl, but then when her blood doesn't give him the abilities that he thought it was going to give him, he realizes, oh shit, she already gave her blood to someone else, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we haven't even tried to describe the story of this film, but I mean, ultimately, it's basically some escaped convicts that are meeting some gang members in the woods. The woods turn out to be the Forest of Resurrection. There's some
a gateway to hell.
Oh, yeah, it turns out to be a potential gateway to hell. I mean, there's so much going on in this movie. I could see watching a dubbed version of this one just so you don't have to worry about reading. I still watch the sub version. I always watch the sub version. That's just kind of me. It was the same thing with me, Derek. I popped in the DVD and it started in English, but I'm like, yeah, I'd rather watch it in its original language. That's just the way I am. But yeah. I mean, trust me, there are some dubs. I mean, hell, Godzilla movies, I lived on dubs, so growing up. So
the crazy thing is, sorry to get off topic. I had to go back to Final Wars. When you watch the fucking subbed version of Final Wars, Don Fry still speaks English. It's great.
Yes, I appreciate that.
Yes, it's awesome.
It makes me wonder if the reason why a lot of the characters have generic names is because ultimately it's if we have a story here, it's still the showdown of the two main guys, and it's almost like everyone else, even though they have reasons for being in that forest, it's kind of like they're all there in the way of this like apocalyptic showdown in the forest, and wrong place, wrong time. You guys are all going to get murdered in the process and turned into demons and zombies and get killed again. I love the one dude that almost turns into like the damn crab walking.
Yeah, the
tree
hyena
climbing.
guy.
Yeah,
Best guy.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Yeah, he's
Love that
great.
guy. I also really enjoyed the one-handed cop. I
Yeah,
thought it was hysterical.
Mhm.
This guy literally loses a hand
he's
at
gushing
the
blood the
beginning
whole
of the
time. He's
movie,
still alive.
and he doesn't. And he's like, his partner is literally like, maybe you should go to the hospital. The guy literally just has a bloody stub at the end of his arm, and he's like, nah, let's go find these escaped convicts. I'm like, that's either idiotic or badass. I can't tell which. But the fact that he remains with the stub throughout the whole movie, until he's finally dispatched, I absolutely adored it.
Yo,
I thought that was hysterical.
I wanted a spin off of Mr. No Legs with that guy.
Or maybe that was the Razor Fist prequel, the Shang-Chi character with the blade for a hand. This
Oh,
is the
yeah.
prequel. But I mean, there's so much great stuff to like about this movie. Obviously, it's, the length isn't optimum. I still don't mind it. Yes, it's a 2-hour movie, and yes, sometimes it feels like a 2-hour movie. But for the most part, the pacing is still pretty good. As with most Kitamura movies, sometimes the characters will get a little chatty. I still was utterly entertained here, even during the quiet parts, where characters are just kind of talking smack to each other back and forth. Then we get a second group of assassins show up, and this second group is like, they're all fucking ninjas. They're all like Bruce Lee quality fighters. And then even after they're killed and they come back as, zombies/demons, they're even more badass. They still have all their fight moves, their styles, but now they're super strong as well. So just that added element to it as well just makes this so much fun, so entertaining. I could see how the ending might leave some people kind of maybe not satisfied because we don't get a true ending. Like Mike said, it kind of feels like they were setting up a sequel that we never got. But I'm not complaining anyway because, Mike has a valid point. Sometimes sequels don't work. And I'd rather just have one standalone movie with an open-ended ending that entertains the shit out of me for its entire runtime than get a sequel that maybe will finish the story, but maybe finish it in an unsatisfactory way. So I'm very on board with just the one Versus movie.
I feel like the silver lining of the ending is because of what we get in the rest of the movie, where we get like the showdown from the past, present, and just a little kind of teaser of the future. Is even without a sequel, it gets the point across that like they're gonna be having this battle throughout like the end of time. Like it no matter what happens in one time period, it's gonna happen again in another time period. So it's like, even though we never ended up getting a sequel, it's like I feel like the movie still gave us everything we needed.
Yeah, it was
Absolutely.
it was fucking crazy. Like that whole thing where, like, when she says, "I should have maybe been on your side," I'm like, "Oh, that's fucked."
Yeah, a little bit. Oh man, but like I said, there's just so much to enjoy with this one. But I think that's enough for Versus. Let's go ahead and move on to our next movie. And our next movie, in some aspects, it's very similar to Versus.
It's the Kill
but in
Bill
other
fight I wanted.
Exactly. Oh God, we all wanted. But at the same time, though, it's also very different from our first movie, Versus, because Versus has kind of a convoluted plot, a lot of characters to follow, a lot of action. Hey, did that person die yet? Or blah blah blah. There's just a lot of back and forth that maybe on your first watch you're not quite catching everything. Whereas our second movie, which is 2003's Aragami, is a much more subdued film. We still get elements of horror because we are talking about gods and demons and eternal creatures. And again, this one isn't so much a struggle between good and evil, so much it's I don't know, almost kind of, it plays up the boredom of immortality and the fact that immortal creatures, no matter how powerful they are, no matter how rich, handsome, whatever the case may be, they just get bored with life after a while. And it's part of the reasons why I would probably, even if I had the opportunity, would never become a vampire, because the first 100 or so years would probably be great, but after a while, it's just all you're doing is watching your loved ones grow old and die, and it just becomes the same thing over millennia after millennia. So that's definitely played up in this movie. But let's see. I'm very sorry. I'm unprepared here. I'm looking for my notes. But Aragami, let me bring this up. Sorry, folks. I'm still reeling from COVID. But anyway, Aragami, 2003, nice short runtime of 1 hour and 18 minutes. Our synopsis is as follows. A raging god of battle and a master samurai duke it out in a series of sword fights in a remote temple. This movie is very solidly a chamber piece, and probably one of the better chamber pieces I've ever seen. If you don't recognize that term, it basically means an entire movie that takes place in one room. Not just one setting, but literally just one room where either the majority or the entirety of the movie takes place there. Earlier this year, we had a great movie with Brooklyn 45. That was actually one of the better movies that Shudder has put out this year. That was a chamber piece where the entire movie took place in one room. So that, there have been great examples of that over the years. But I'm going to go ahead and let's bring in Mike first on this one. I'm not sure if this is a first time watch for all of us, but let's find out what Mike thinks. Mike, give me your thoughts on Aragami.
So this one was a first time watch for me. I don't know, it must have slipped through the cracks because obviously I've seen other stuff from the director, but I liked it a lot. It's like you said, I feel like there's similar themes as Versus. It's kind of dialed down because it's mainly our two guys, and we do have a female character that's around too. It's almost like psychological in the way that they're playing head games. The confrontation, there's just as much like kind of sarcastic shit talking as there is actual fighting. But once we do get to the fighting, it's amazing. I love, like you said, the fact that I don't know what they refer to him as, like a demon god or whatever. It's almost like he's waiting for that challenger that can come kind of release him from eternity and kill him, because as we see in a later scene with all the weapons laid out, most of those I think are weapons from like other challengers that he's taken out, and their weapons have been left behind, and he's almost trying to help the person get like a leg up and be like, no, choose this because these are useless. I just love like the psychological aspect to this that you get with the fighting, and I feel like the themes of kind of like eternity and what does it mean to live, and what does it mean to have like an end. Those ring through the entire running time of this movie, and I think it's great. Like at first I wasn't sure because I was like, what? When I read the description, I'm almost thinking like, oh, so this is gonna be like a Versus, but in like a different setting, and like the style of fighting you can say definitely piggybacks off like some of the martial arts sword play. But you know what this one felt like when they started? Like it almost had an old school like Star Wars movie, because Star Wars of course was kind of based on samurai movies to begin with, but like the fighting style sometimes was based on like when you would watch like the old movies of like Kenobi and Darth Vader with the more slow paced samurai confrontation as opposed to like wire fu crazy stuff. But yeah, man, I really like this one, and I kind of want to watch it again because it was a lot to take in on a first time watch, but I'll leave it at that, or just let Derek go now because I'm about to cough and I have more to say, but I'll let Derek kind of get his thoughts in before I just go into a coughing fit.
All right, Derek, come on in here.
I just came back from my coughing fit. But this is actually a first time watch for me too. I actually know the history of this movie because it's part of the Duel project, which was Kitamura and another director were tasked by a producer to make like a movie taking place in one room with a minimal cast, low budget, and they had to have a duel. That was the whole
Didn't they have
premise.
to do it in 7 days too? Like they only had 7 days to make
8 days.
it or something crazy?
Yeah, 8 days.
Okay.
8 days. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, it was a interesting aspect. The other movie is, of course, I mentioned is TLDK, which means 2 bedroom, living room, dining room, kitchen. Yeah,
Yep.
that's what that means. And it's kind of interesting because now seeing both movies, it's kind of interesting aspect that because TDLK introduces like this whole female aspect of it, but you have a female in this movie, but she's very minimal. She doesn't really have any lines of dialogue at all. Where it's interest focusing on these two men characters, so I find that very interesting in the aspect of that. Even in that aspect, they switched gender roles for the duel per se that happens in both movies. And yeah, I dug this one a lot. I just liked the whole setting that they were in. That room was fucking cool. Like everything on every wall, I was kind of looking in the background while they were talking. Like this place is fucking massive for what they budgeted this movie. It's fucking the design of the one set is fucking outstanding. That's where most of the fucking budget went on.
Yeah.
It was fucking cool, and even like because I actually watched accidentally the English version of this one too, and man, when fucking Asian David Carradine, aka Aragami, comes down, it's even more badass in the dub because when he's like in the scene where he's like saying I killed this many people, because I actually had the subtitles on for the Japanese dialogue. It says 794 or something. In the dub, it's I killed 974 men. I'm like, oh yeah. Let's see what they did. They made him sound even more badass in the U.S.
The English word 9 probably fit better than 7 in the dubbing, so they probably changed it for that.
Yeah, that's true. That too. Yeah, but it was awesome. It was like, yeah. And the score for this movie is fucking awesome too. Like during the battle scenes and shit, it's fucking awesome. And it's kind of like Nefarious from this year too. Two people in one room, and it kind of, the tension's building, especially that whole story about where his friend is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was great. And the ending, a dude comes back for one scene with his sunglasses. And he shows his weapons like this fucking Nerf rocket launcher. It's awesome.
Oh man, yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and complete the first time watch trifecta. This was a first time watch for me, but I'm also gonna caveat that with a bold statement. This is now my favorite Kitamura movie. I fucking adored this movie. You can ask Mike more than anyone. Mike has worked with me more than any other podcaster. I genuinely love character-driven, dramatic kind of scenes like this. Like this movie has elements of Reservoir Dogs in it with some of its amazing conversations, or really any Quentin Tarantino movie.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's got great. I mean, the fight in this is amazing. It's like a triple stage fight. Like they fight 3 times, and they just get better. Every fight gets better and better and better, and the choreography is great. I will say that the strobe light part kind of bugged me. At least it didn't last very long. There was like maybe 2 or 3 minutes of the fight where they were fighting under a strobe light. Not a strobe light, but basically every time their swords would hit, it would spark and light up the entire room.
Like lightsabers.
Dark otherwise. Yeah, exactly. Whereas lightsabers would be on, they would light up the room the entire time. This was only lighting up the room when the swords actually touched and a spark would come out.
Yeah.
So that started to get a little bit tedious to me after a while. But still very enjoyable, great fight. But for me, the strength of this movie is the first half of this movie, the conversations that these two have. And this is probably the part of the movie that's probably going to upset the most people, because when I say the first half of this movie is just two guys sitting in a room talking, I literally mean that. I mean, just at least with Nefarious, they do eventually leave the cell. You know, there are a couple of scenes outside of the cell. This one, literally, we get our opening with our samurais kind of showing up to this temple, and then the rest of the movie takes place in this one room. So yeah, but the back and forth between these two, I thought was just so organic, so believable. And I also liked how the samurai, who, for those who don't know, the villain is called the Aragami. I guess we haven't even really explained what it is yet. The Aragami, as described in the synopsis, it's a god of battle. It's an eternal, deity, if you will. I think at one point in the movie, he actually calls himself a demon god. So, so there's some demonic, maybe horror elements involved as well. Nothing on screen, unfortunately. But like I said, the first half of this movie, getting to know these characters, getting to know what happened to the other guy. Because like I said, two samurais show up. And I was mentioning that there was somebody from the first movie in this one. The man from the first movie, who was in the entirety of Versus, is only in the first 2 minutes of this movie. Basically, him and his partner, the samurai, arrive, and they've just been in a big battle. They both have stab wounds. They both have arrows sticking out of them. And unfortunately, one of them dies overnight, and one of them lives. But there is a very specific reason why one lived and one died. And I'm not going to get into the specifics of it, because I think this is a movie that needs to be watched. But yeah, the mystery of who that woman is, like all through the movie, you're just like, who is this woman standing in the corner just being quiet? Like, she has to play a role in this. And even at the end of the movie, when you realize her, a little bit more about her involvement in this whole thing, it still leaves you with questions of who is she? Is she an Aragami as well? Or maybe just a different form of Aragami? Towards the end of the movie, I started to think that she was the Aragami, and that the guy was kind of like a decoy. Like, he was just there to be like the receptionist, if you will, the guy who welcomes the samurais there. But then eventually she pulls out a sword and starts fighting. But no, our main character is an Aragami. And like I said, some of the dialogue in this is so entertaining. I love the fact that they're trying quote unquote new liquors throughout the movie. Obviously, the movie takes place in feudal Japan, so you got to figure somewhere in the 1400s, sometime in that range. And the Aragami actually pours him a glass of wine, and will say something like, "This is a new liquor from France that's made out of grapes. It's called wine." And and the samurai drinks it. He kind of likes it. He doesn't necessarily love it. Later in the conversation, he introduces him to vodka, where the Aragami is like, "Oh, this is vodka."
That's such a great scene.
Oh, I love that scene, that whole exchange. And then the fact that the samurai himself doesn't heed the words of the Aragami when he says it's a very strong liquor, because later on in the conversation, the swordsman gets upset, and then he grabs the rather large glass of vodka and just chugs it, and you see him react like he just drank fire or something. It's actually really, really entertaining. But yeah, just to see this Aragami and like everything that he knows, he's very worldly, even though it seems like he hasn't really left this temple in however many hundreds of years. Maybe the concubine, the female, maybe she does all the shopping or whatever. I don't know. You can speculate all you want, but like I said, the dynamic between these two is so entertaining. And then we get to the fight, and man, our Aragami, I fucking love this character so much. I don't know if you guys noticed, but he's wearing women's clothes in this movie. The Aragami is wearing a wedding kimono, and then the sash that he's wearing is actually from a wedding dress, but it's turned inside out. That's why it looks kind of disheveled. It looks like it's old, with like hanging threads and whatnot, but it's just that they turned it inside out so that it would look like that. And I just thought these are such great decisions. Also, his fighting style. This Aragami has been to Spain because he was using the bullfighter fighting style. I mean, I don't know if you guys noticed, but, kind of where he's using the samurai's momentum against him, just like a bullfighter with a bull. He eggs him on, he comes in for the attack, and then he counters the attack easily. One thing that was a little bit confusing to me was when they had their first fight, the samurai looked really unskilled. Like he looked like he was just swinging his sword around wildly, completely missing, getting frustrated, something you don't really expect from samurais, a true samurai anyway. But as the movie goes along, it's like, to borrow an internet term, the samurai understood the assignment. Because as the movie goes along, his mood changes. He becomes more serious. He starts to believe the Aragami, because obviously he doesn't believe the story at first. He's basically told that that he's been chosen to potentially, kill the Aragami. And the Aragami tells him stories about how he's just bored with life. He's been sitting here in this temple for however many hundreds of years waiting for someone who might actually give him a good fight. I don't know how this samurai happened to be that guy, but there it is. Just out of sheer coincidence, he kind of shows up. But there is a little bit of a twist towards the end of the movie, because at the end of the second stage of this fight, our swordsman is defeated and actually dies. But then, there's an event, which, again, I don't really want to get into too much of it because, again, this movie is available on YouTube, both subbed and dubbed. So there's no reason to not watch this, other than the fact that this is a horror movie podcast, and you can make the argument that this isn't a horror movie. It has a horror elements in the storytelling, but not so much on screen, Yes, the Aragami can do things that no human can do, disappearing and reappearing in different parts of the room, things like that.
Limbs.
Yeah, basically destroying the samurai's first sword in one swing, just basically cutting it in half like it was made of butter. Obviously, this Aragami does have legitimate abilities, but we see the samurai not buy into the story and actually laugh at the guy on more than one occasion. But then as the movie goes along, obviously you understand, no, this guy is legit. He's actually telling 100% the truth. And, when the samurai accepts that this is the truth, he doesn't even understand how this is potentially, this is supposed to be the greatest swordsman that's ever existed. He actually does give his name in the movie, and I forget specifically what the name was, but if for people, for Mortal Kombat fans, you may recognize the name that the Aragami gives. It's Scorpion's real name. In the Mortal Kombat game, Scorpion in life was the world's greatest swordsman, and it's this guy who is, like I said, is now an Aragami. Apparently, he wasn't always a god. He was human at one point, and then just something happens where suddenly he comes back from death. He's immortal. He has all these new abilities. He still has all his sword abilities, obviously, from his life. And he was the world's greatest swordsman in life. So imagine how badass he is, with demonic abilities as well. So obviously the samurai's assignment is very daunting. He doesn't understand how he's going to be able to do it. But like I said, there is a little bit of a twist after the quote unquote death of the samurai, where they basically have the third stage of their fight. And then we get our ultimate culmination. And like Derek said, we get that extra scene, that finale scene at the end, which, like I said, if the majority of this film takes place in feudal Japan, the final scene takes place in modern day, because the guy, the opponent is dressed in leather. He's dressed like a biker. He's covered in guns and ammo and crazy stuff like that, which means that the Aragami has been there for 600-700 years potentially. Imagine how boring a 600 to 700 year life would be. You know,
But the
I mean,
quietest woman ever.
Yeah, and you have to spend the time with this woman who probably won't touch you in any fun way. And she is attractive. I mean, she's a beautiful woman, you know, a little bit of a lazy eye, but no big deal. But yeah, like Derek said, she doesn't speak through the entirety of the movie until the very end. Finally, at the end, when the winner of the fight basically says, okay, what do I do now? Finally, she speaks and says, well, now we stay here and live out our lives or whatever, blah, 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 which almost sounds like a romantic proposition, but it's not, because then when we get our finale scene, we see that the Aragami is there with a new opponent. And like I said, it's modern day. So like I said, I can't speak good enough about this movie. I fucking adore. I watched it twice, and I never do that. I almost never watch a movie back to back because
it ends with guitars too, like the guitar solos.
Dude, this score is amazing, and the final theme was performed by Paul Gilbert. You know, heavy metal hard rock fans are going to know Paul Gilbert's name. I mean, in the 80s and 90s, he was one of those speed demon guitar players that everybody, you know, like a Steve Vai or a Joe Satriani that everybody loved.
Yeah.
When I saw his name in the credits, I was blown away because I was a big fan of Racer X, which was one of Paul Gilbert's early bands. And man, I thought it was so cool. The score is great throughout, whether we're getting traditional Japanese music or more modernized rock music with really heavy guitars in the background. The score works. There's some beautiful editing in both of these movies. I didn't actually even mention the editing and camera work in Versus. Just some beautiful camera work. Some of Kitamura's camera movements scream Western. I mean, it is absolutely a Western style camera movement where the camera will actually pan around the combatants as they're facing each other and talking, and how the camera will spin back and forth and have a different character in focus and a different one in the foreground, blah, blah, blah. Just some really, really nice camera work, really nice editing. Like I said, amazing, amazing fight sequences. In a behind-the-scenes doc that I watched, Kitamura basically said that his intention with this movie was to balance the tension with the humor. I would probably say that Versus is maybe a slightly funnier movie as far as its straight comedy, just because of some of the over-the-top characters. There is comedy in this movie, though. I mean, some of the, like I said, the conversations that they have in the first half.
Fight's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, in the first fight, because the samurai is so woefully unprepared, it is pretty damn funny, actually. So, yeah. And like I said, the Aragami is wearing women's clothing throughout the whole movie. And it kind of lends to it because he uses, as I said earlier, he uses a Spanish bullfighting style. It almost goes because, you know, real life bullfighters wear very flamboyant outfits. So it makes sense that this guy learned that style, that discipline of martial art. And now he's kind of dressing in a more feminine way. Even his movements, like in the second fight, where they were doing a little bit more hand-to-hand, not as much with the swords. Just beautiful, beautiful movements from the Aragami. And then I thought the whole conversation with the gun was so entertaining. The
whole weapon scene
like Derek
awesome.
saying, the whole weapon scene,
Yeah.
every time the samurai would pick a new weapon, the Aragami would be like, no, you're not going to beat me with that. Put that down. And then every time the Aragami would try to recommend a weapon, the samurai would be like, no, he would, you know, obviously he's untrusting. He's not going to use the weapon that the Aragami tells him to use.
That one scene where you find out
but
the Aragami fought Conan?
Yes, exactly. He's got Conan's sword on that fucking blanket. Oh my God. I thought I saw the Sword of Omens on there, but it turned out to be something different. But yeah, and then the whole thing with the gun, because obviously a gun is new technology in feudal Japan. You know, it's an old timey pistol, you know. Oh, so actually that means that this movie couldn't have taken place in the 1400s. It's got to be closer to like the 1800s then. So, yeah. I didn't even think about that. But anyway, yeah, just the fact that this gun is so foreign to the samurai, he's looking down the barrel. He's trying to figure out how to use it. At one point, he tries to shoot the Aragami with it, but he didn't cock the hammer back. So it's literally just clicking and nothing's happening. Later in that same scene, he pulls the gun out again. Again, he forgets to pull back the hammer. And the Aragami actually tells him, oh, you have to pull back on that hammer if you want to shoot me. And instantly the samurai cocks the gun and shoots the Aragami right in the forehead. Obviously, it does nothing, which is kind of funny that the Aragami handed him the gun and said, oh, this is kind of a cool new weapon from the West. But then as soon as he shot him with it, he's like, you're never going to beat me with that. So it's like, why the fuck did you give it to me then? So just, yeah, that's kind of a lot of the humor that's in here is just the back and forth between these two. Just so goddamn entertaining. And then we get that great little finale that shows, how long these guys have to stay in this temple and, continue to defend their title of world's greatest swordsman.
Being the new Aragami, pretty much.
Exactly. Yeah. Big time. So, man, but like I said, I watched this movie twice in a row. Fucking loved it. If this thing is available on physical media, I am 100% buying it. Even if it's just a DVD, I don't care.
The DVD actually looks really good that I bought.
Oh, nice. I mean, the YouTube version that's up there, the dubbed one, looked really nice. Like, I was actually surprised how good it looked, considering this movie is only 2 years later than Versus. And the budget technically for this movie is smaller than Versus, but this movie is not shot on film either. This movie is definitely shot on digital video. And you can kind of see, the quality, the actual quality of the picture is better in this one than it is in Versus, but you can still tell that this isn't film. This isn't, 16 or 32 millimeter film that they're using. This is definitely digital video, which makes sense. Another thing I really like about the fights, I think Derek touched upon that, is the fact that they don't abuse the wire fu in this movie. Don't forget, this movie came out in 2003. This is literally 3 years after stuff like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and Hero came out, where after that, Asian filmmakers were just absolutely abusing wire fu. This one, there's a little bit of it in there, like in the second part of the fight, there's a little bit of them jumping around, but they absolutely don't abuse it. And once they stop using it, they stop using it. The rest of the the rest of the movie or the rest of the fight is more a traditional on the ground fight. And that was another thing I kind of found very almost honorable about the Aragami, is that he didn't really use his abilities as much as he could have during the fight. I mean, considering he can disappear and reappear at will, he never does that during the fight. And I think that's, kind of honorable.
Obviously, he's probably at that point where he's fucking wants to just die. Dude.
Right, but unfortunately, because he is a god of battle, he can't just let himself die. Like, he can't drop his sword, and like he has to die in battle with him trying to win. An honor code type thing. But yeah, even though he very obviously wants to die, he can't just let the samurai cut his head off or stab him in the heart, whatever. The only two ways that the Aragami can be defeated are by decapitation and stabbing through the heart. So, obviously he's not just going to give his neck up to this guy. I mean, he wants to make him earn it. And even after the quote unquote death scene, when the samurai dies after the second part of the fight, the Aragami is still very humbled, and he says that the guy is nice, and he tells his concubine to bury him in a nice place, that he's a nice guy and he deserves it, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's not something that you would think, a mad demon god of battle would actually say, but there you go. So, even with the antagonist in this film, there's a sense of honor here, and I appreciate that.
Till he gets his upgrade.
Yeah, till he gets his upgrade, exactly. But yeah, man, anything else you guys want to bring up about Aragami before we get out of here?
It's just a good movie, man.
Yeah, I want to second the thoughts on Conan's sword being among the weapons. That was awesome.
Oh yeah, so good. But I mean, yeah, I cannot say enough good things about this movie. I'm actually upset with myself for not watching this, because after I saw Versus, I went back and I checked out Alive. I checked out Azumi, a couple of his other movies.
Sky
And this
High.
one, I think I saw Sky High. I'm not sure. But like I said, this movie somehow just fell through the cracks for me. And now here we are exactly 20 years later, and I'm finally seeing it, and I fucking love it. And I am going to sing this movie's praises from the highest mountain. I'm going to try to get as many people to set eyes on this thing as possible. It's available on YouTube. It's an hour and 18 minutes. The transfer, whether you watch the dubbed or the subbed version on YouTube, they look great. For a 20-plus-year-old movie, it looks awesome on YouTube. There's just no reason not to check this out. Like I said, it might be the first half of it might be a little slow for some people, but if you're a fan of chamber pieces and character-driven dramatic films, I think you're going to love this. I could talk about this movie for probably another 2 hours. I loved it so much. So yeah. Why don't we get Mike back in here so that I can shut up and ease my throat?
Yeah, I mean, during my break from coffee and all that, I agree with everything being said here. I think the kind of it's almost like a cat and mouse game where, for the most part, they're stationary for a lot of the movie, and it's just kind of like a mental chess game going on. Trying to figure out who's getting the upper hand. You're trying to figure out the motivations of each character, especially once our female character enters the picture, who largely doesn't say anything the entire time, but you figure there's a reason she's there, and that comes later in the movie. But man, I was it you, Venom? I brought up kind of like the Reservoir Dogs aspect of just the dialogue. It sucks you in. It sucks you in early, and it's not that long of a movie. It's only like an hour and 20, and
18.
I think 18, yeah. And it's like I was so into just the back and forth, but that by the time I even looked at where I was in the movie, I think I was like 45, 50 minutes in, and I was like, wow, that just shows how strong the script has been, and the fact that it was made under all the conditions that it was. Like not only low budget but super quick, and man, great effort. Yeah, I'm almost ashamed I hadn't seen this one either, because usually, especially from this era, if I would have liked the director then, I would have been the one to like look up everything they've done at the time and track it down. But for some reason, I skipped right over this one. So, but yeah.
One other thing that I forgot.
Double feature.
Absolutely, and one other thing that I forgot to mention about Aragami. We mentioned that it shot in 8 days. The movie was actually mostly done in 8 days because they edited this film on set. Literally, as soon as they were done shooting a scene, they would edit it right there. Like if you watch the behind the scenes footage is also on YouTube. Just look that up. But yeah, they had an editing bay right on the set, right in the temple where they were shooting, and they literally edited the movie as they shot it. So when I say this movie was made in 8 days, it was literally 8 days. Obviously, they probably still had to do some post-production audio after the fact, putting the score in and all that shit. But as far as editing the film and all the dialogue, that was literally done in the 8 days that it took to shoot it. So in my opinion, that's fucking amazing. That is so impressive that they shot a movie in a little over a week, and it's this damn good. Like, this movie doesn't have the right to be as good as it is, but there it is. It absolutely is. So yeah.
Hell yeah.
Really impressive.
Did you ever see the other movie, Venom?
No, the other Duel movie? No, I did not.
Yeah.
I'm going to look for it now, though.
I don't know if films put it on Blu-ray, so
nice.
So hopefully on Earth, if you're listening, put out the other movie on Blu-ray.
Yeah, really.
All right. Well, that sounds like it's going to wrap up our discussion on these movies, which also means it's wrapping up No More Room in Hell number 56. Thank you, everybody, for listening. But before we get out of here, let's go around and see what else we have out. So, Venom, I'll start with you. Where else can people hear you right now?
You can hear Derek and myself on the latest episode of No More Room in Hell presents Creature Comforts. That's going to be episode 19, where we looked at the 1957 Ray Harryhausen classic, 20 Million Miles to Earth.
Where we just sucked that movie's dick.
Oh, we completely filleted that movie. Oh, my God, big time. I mean, that movie and Them are probably like the two movies that we absolutely just filleted for like an hour on the show, but it absolutely deserves it. I mean, I hadn't watched the movie in well over a decade, and I'm very glad that we decided to do it for that show, because that was a really, really great, underrated movie. You know, everybody thinks about Clash of the Titans and the Jason and the Argonauts and the Sinbad movies when they think of Ray Harryhausen. But man, 20 Million Miles to Earth is amazing. And you even get a tiny little preview of the Kraken, of what would eventually become the Kraken in 1981's Clash of the Titans. But that's another story. And that's pretty much it. Sadly, you know, I've been fighting COVID since September 13th. The day I got back from Vegas, I pretty much started to feel sick right away. And as I mentioned earlier, literally this morning is the first time that I actually feel like a normal human being again. So I was out of commission for a solid 2 weeks. So unfortunately, I don't really have anything else to discuss other than the latest episode of Creature Comforts. So hopefully the month of October is going to bring us a lot more stuff. You know, obviously we're going to get together and discuss our Halloween special for this year, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, you'll be, you know, I'm back, I'm healthy, so you'll be hearing me a lot more. But that's it for me for now.
All right, Derek, how about you?
Creature Comforts, move.
All right, Fresh Cuts.
Goodbye.
What the hell's the latest one that we did on Fresh Cuts? I already forgot.
It Lives Inside.
I know. Yes, which was quite enjoyable. I know our next one is Saw X. So
Yup.
Saw in space.
Saw X.
Yeah, if anybody didn't listen to that, if anyone missed that last episode of Fresh Cuts, I highly recommend It Lives Inside. It's currently playing in theaters all over the country, so there's no excuse not to see it. But if you get a chance, it is an Indian-American production, Indian from India, obviously. And just a really cool story, really likable characters. Yeah, check it out, folks.
I agree. And Saw X, I'm looking forward to it because it's like the 10th in the entry, but it looks like the timeline is taking place early in the franchise. So we'll see.
It's between 1 and 2, or 2 or 3.
Yeah, it's between.
I think
1
it's
and 2.
between 1 and 2, but supposedly that'll tie in. But we'll see. As far as No More Room in Hell 57, it goes back to Derek's picks, right? And is that the one that Don's jumping on here with us?
Yeah, we're going to have Don on talking about some Hammer movies.
Woo!
Excellent. All right. Well, that should be part of a busy October because everybody knows that that month is busy for all things horror. So until then, though, thanks everyone for listening, but it's time for us to descend back to the Lake of Fire and burn until we're free to record another episode.
I thought you were going to say, burn, baby, burn, disco and burn. Like a hobo with a shotgun.
Oh.
I hate hobos.
You want Venom to have another reason never to podcast with me again?
I have enough.
All right. Thanks everyone for listening. Let's say bye to our listeners so we can get the hell out of here.
Bye.
I drank so much sake during this movie. Oh my God. I'm not kidding either. That's not a racist joke. I drank a whole bottle of sake during Aragami.
Never bury bodies in a haunted, enchanted forest.
Nope.
Legend of Zelda. The end.
Live action Legend of Zelda. Love it.